afternoon here in North Carolina, and I thought that it would be a nice time for us to get together over a nice warm cup of tea and check my drawing progress. I've been working in this journal for 2 years and a half now, and people always ask me where I learned to draw, and I want to share with you that I didn't know how to draw. I just taught myself. I still have a lot to learn, and I thought that it could serve of inspiration for you to see how I grew month by month in my journal. So as usual, I started this journal with another intention. My intention was to collage instead of drawing, and that's why I did this cover. So I decided to go with rings because I knew it was going to be a huge journal, not because of the amount of drawings that I have in here, but mainly because I decided to recycle cereal boxes and use them as pages for these drawings. So I aged the rings with acrylic paint, and I mod podged them so they look aged. The cover of the journal, the front and the back, was created with cereal boxes as well as all the pages in there, and these paper here, the flowers, are from a wrapping paper from the Dollar Tree, and I aged the paper with acrylic paint. I think I kind of mixed the acrylic paint with water and just spread it all over, and then I Mod Podged it. This tag belongs to Artie Mays. You can find her printables in her page. The front has this picture. This picture comes from a dollar store magazine, an art magazine, and it came with different pictures from the 50s or the 60s. So when I had in my head the idea of collaging pictures, that's what I decided to use. And then I added this kind of hat with buttons and flowers, and her earrings and necklace and the polka dots. And these drawings came with the picture. So I think it turned out to be original. And then the inside of the journal, I glued this, I don't know how you call it. It's a cork page that you buy at the dollar store, and it's sticky, so it made the cover sturdier. And I did it in the front and in the back. So the first page, I went with my original idea because I didn't know I was gonna draw faces yet. So this page, I decided to kind of collage a cat because at that time our friend Ollie, the cat, was visiting us. So I decided to work with him. So I prepped the page with gesso, and then I created this little shirt with the tie, and I used some of the wordings that I cut out from any magazines that I can get, and these two are from cutouts from a magazine. This here was a little doily, and this was a piece of paper that I not stamped, but I used my machine to have this shape here. So this was the first page, and it started with a dream, sure enough. And then What happened was one night I was watching one of the YouTube channels that I always watch to increase my knowledge and I saw that the person was drawing a face, and somehow I could feel inside, I don't know how to explain this, I could feel inside that I could be able to accomplish something with what I was seeing. So the following day, I gave it a try. And this is Timid Rose. This is my first drawing, and it's in the back of the other project. And what I did is I put a magazine page in there. I just put it over the cereal box page, and then I prepped the page with gesso over the magazine. I wanted to have like something of that magazine page showing, and I wanted to in this case show the roses. So probably going back, I would have added more gesso in the part of the face, because you still can see a little bit, but it gives a little bit of character to the picture too. All those stains that you can see in her face, in reality they are not stains. You can see a little bit of the drawings of the magazine popping out. So I think it's 50 and 50. I could have done something different, but I also think it gives character to her. This was also the first time that I was drawing something in my whole life, and then the first time using gesso. So probably, you know, as works the different girls progress, you can see, you know, I put more in the face area. And these are real flowers, well, real petals from my roses in the garden. So since she was going to be called Timid Rose, I wanted to incorporate something from my garden, and it makes more like a mixed media or collage in there. So this was the first one. Then we have the second one of my least favorites. And she is Blue Ivy. When I drew her, I really loved her. Of course, she was my second one, so I didn't have anything to compare her with. But of course, going back, I know that I should have drawn the eyes or the pupils bigger. There is too much space in her eyes there, but I think for a second try, it was good. I painted her with a little bit of watercolor for her hair, and then at the very beginning, and that's something that I forgot to say, I was a little bit scared of the watercolors or the acrylics, so I was using the chalk pastels. The same with Timid Rose. She was accomplished with the chalk pastels because they were easy to erase if there was a mistake. So for quite some time, I just used the chalk pastels until I gained a little bit of confidence. Again, I used a backdrop of a magazine. All the magazines that I use are the dollar store ones, and they are like that opaque paper that absorbs better. So, well, she was the second one. Third one, And you're gonna see that some of these, they all look the same, and the hairdo was different. I was trying to kind of learn how to do the frame of the face. So in her case, I corrected the eyes. They are a little bit bigger in the inside, which I think makes her like sweet. She is one of my favorite girls, although she looks similar to others, because as I said, I was concentrating more on the hair. So on her, I incorporated something that I hadn't done before, which was the pastel crayons. So I found that they were really nice to work for the hair, because when I prepare the page with gesso, and she again has the backdrop of a magazine in the back, I could move them around the crayons with my hand, and I could create different tones of like in this case of brown in her hair. So for her, again, the skin was accomplished with chalk pastels, and I used a little bit of watercolor to create the shadows outside her hair, and on the neck, the face, and the eyebrows. So she's Forgotten Sparrow, and she's the third one. Then you're gonna see that this one is quite similar. I guess it's like I was trying to still learn, you know, the shape of the face, how to draw a nose. The mouth is quite similar too. But again, I played with her hair. Here I didn't use a magazine. I used like a black crafting paper, and then these stars, I use stencils from the dollar store, and I use nail paint for the stars, and her hair was created with the crayons, and her skin was created with the chalk pastels. The stars are from the dollar store collection, and I'm gonna drink a little bit of tea. And I started adding some lights in her eyes, and lots of things, you know, you learn by watching others and getting tips. So then this is Anne Boleyn, and she was married to the King of England, and this is another collage with her. Again, I repeated the crayons for the hair and the chalk pastels for her skin, and for her crown I used a picture of some plates, and I added some beads and some flowers from the dollar store magazine to give a pop-up of light blue in there. In this one, I made the mistake probably of brushing the gesso or applying the gesso with a brush, and you can see the lines in there. So it created some imperfections, which probably are a mistake. Probably I would call them character, but she was my fourth lady. And also I started changing the shape of the face, so I tried a more rounded face for her. So that was the first one where I changed the face. This one here I called her Olive Swirl. And this is not something that I came up with. I came up with the story, but I watch a lot Karen Campbell, and she teaches how to draw faces. So she came up with this girl, and I wanted to give it a try to see if I could draw a profile. I always, when I feel that I'm achieving something, or that I have achieved something, I always like to give myself an extra push. So I wanted to see if I could draw a profile. So I followed her instructions, and she had a girl quite similar to this one. So it's not that I came up with her, it was kind of an exercise. I added a ribbon here, and I used the backdrop of a magazine too here. The only problem with this is the magazine was not opaque, and it gave me a hard time to work over because it did not absorb the materials. And her hair, I used the Faber Castles in Spanish, where my first language, they are called Faber Castles, and these are watercolor pencils, and the skin was done with the chalk pastels. Then we have Consuelo. Consuelo is one of the favorite ones for the people, not especially my favorite, but it was a change a little bit in the game, in the sense that it was a half profile, and that's another thing that is not easy to achieve, or as easy as it would be like a front drawing. So this one was the first one. It was a learning process. Again, I used a backdrop prepared with gesso and a magazine, and then her hair was completed with the crayons, and her skin was created with chalk pastels, and I added some crafting paper here for her headpiece. Something that probably you need to take into account is, like, when you work with the crayons and the chalk pastels, you cannot put a picture face in another picture because the color comes out a little bit. In my case, I don't have a problem because I journal for every picture, so I don't mind that, you know, it has some crayons over there, but that's something that you need to take into account. Then I came up with Aging Wisdom, and she is different in the sense that I used acrylics for her. I had never tried acrylics in my paintings, and also the backdrop is different. The backdrop is different pieces of leftover papers that I had. So I put them together and all over the page, and then I drew her on top, and basically she is all painted with acrylic paint. And you can see the mouth is a little bit different, so I was trying to learn and to change things so the girls don't look all the same. So then we have Patagonia. Patagonia is one of my favorite, probably not the favorite for the people, but I'm in love with her. With her, I used, again, a magazine in the back, and then I prepped it with gesso, and she was painted with only one marker. I had bought at that time the Elegant marker collection of 6 that come in there with different colors, and basically you just draw the picture, and then you go through it with the marker, and then you touch the paint with a brush and water, and you move around the paint. So I'm in love with her eyes. I don't even know. I tried to replicate her eyes in other girls and I couldn't. But she's my favorite. She has a story that is very close to my heart from my childhood, and the tone of her eyes, her look, she's my favorite. I cannot say anything else. So the following one was to practice with another color of the Elegant markers or Elegant writers. So she's Seagull in the Storm, and in here I tried to use the blue one, the blue marker. So again, magazine page down there, page prepped with gesso. These stickers are from the decals of the dollar store, and again this is a full half profile in there. I wanted to practice that again, so this had 2 challenges there: the half profile and working with only one marker. So you can see from the very beginning up to now, there's a little bit of stretching in the materials, in the shape of the face. Before it was much like a V. Now you can see that there's some more lines in here involved. The eyes have more expression because I observed how the eyes are, how they work, how they need to go down there, and even, you know, some of different shapes in here. So there's kind of, I can see, at least from what I believe, some kind of progress there. Another one, half profile. This is Gardenia the Fairy, and this it looks kind of a Disney character, but again, I wanted to practice a full half profile. Difficult because her face is kind of small, so it's difficult to just find the right place for the eyes. But in this case, what I did is I practiced with only one marker from the Elegant Writers, and this one was the green one. And then I added like a crown of flowers from one of the magazines, and some blings in there, and a butterfly from the dollar store collection. This one is one of my favorites. Her name is Azabache. This is, I would say, a quarter profile in there. And again, I used a magazine to create the background. I liked it because it kind of looked like feathers down here, and that was in the magazine. And then I left some clarity in the gesso so you could see some of the wording in there that was in the magazine. So her eyes also really, really beautiful to me. It's the first time that I created big eyes, and I started playing a little bit with the shadowing and some lighting in the middle. Her skin was done again with chalk pastels, and her hair is crayons. And this is kind of a headpiece from the Dollar Tree. So she's one of my favorites, and her story is very, very particular to me, close to my heart. Then I created Otoño. Otoño too, and I'm gonna drink some more tea. Otoño was created to celebrate fall, and she has kind of a sweet look, I think, and I pushed myself a little bit in the sense of mixing the chalk pastels. She has some shadows created with watercolors. The hair was done with crayons. Then a sunflower from the dollar store. Again, I went back to the big eyes, which I think they work really great for the girls. And I tried another type of mouth. So what I did is I used a magazine that had that tone, and I used one of those little bottles. This one has glue, but this was written with one of these and black acrylic paint there. So then, oh, it's the other way around. Then we have Dolores. And this is the first time that I pushed myself and I tried to create a lady with a hat, a headpiece. So, not easy. It saves you many times of creating the hair, but the hat has to flow in the head. So as soon as I started, I realized that it was not going to be as simple as I thought it was going to be. So with her, again, it's kind of a collage. I used a magazine too that had some nice colors here that make her eyes pop out. She has a different kind of eyes. Instead of going down, hers are kind of going up, so I tried something different there. And then I added some lace in here because I haven't written her story yet, but she's gonna have something related to tango. That's that I know, to the tango era in Argentina. So her skin was created with chalk pastels, and her headpiece was painted with acrylic paint, and the same with the shadows. And this here is a flower that was given to me by a supervisor that works with me. So this is Dolores, and very little hair coming out of the hat, but believe me, it was harder drawing the hat and making that flow happen in there than drawing the hair. So after that we have Cleo, and again, same technique, a magazine page prepped with gesso. Only the center in this case was prepped with gesso for her face, and basically she was created with chalk pastels and crayons, and her headpiece is a butterfly from the dollar store collection. And I used my die cut machine to create her name there. So and she has, that's why I called her Cleo, because I did like her Cleopatra eyes. So that was a new try of creating different eyes. So then we have Tabina. Tabina was a great push. The story with Tabina, although, you know, I know I will probably journal about my grandmother in this case, but she still doesn't have the story. So what happened with her is, I was looking through the dollar store magazine and I saw the picture of a mirror. And this mirror, I remember my grandma, my nonna, used to have it in her room. So I said, I need to paint an old lady and I need to push myself to see how I'm gonna portray the wrinkles. So I covered the mirror with gesso, the inside part of the mirror, and I left the frame, and that's where I drew Tabina. So Tabina was very difficult. I drew her from an old lady, a real picture. I don't like doing that, but I had to use a real picture. She had different hair in the picture, but just to understand the wrinkles and where to place them, it was a lot of observation. So she was painted, the base was painted with chalk pastels, but then the wrinkles were painted with watercolors. The same with her eyes. And her hair was done with crayons, gray, white, and a little bit of brown there. And then her color is like the old ladies used to wear. And then she has a whimsical cat there, and that's why she's called Tabina. She owns a tabby cat, and the cat was created with watercolors, and these shapes here, they were created with chalk pastels and stencils from these stencils were from Walmart, and the backdrop, the yellow one, is chalk pastels. So yeah, Tabina was difficult, but I felt accomplished when I finished, because I knew if I had to draw another old lady, I know more or less how to figure that out. And then came Joy. Joy was created last Christmas, and Joy is a big push, a turn of a page in my painting experience, because as you can see, I used watercolor paper. I had the watercolors for a long time, and I was super scared of them. I didn't want to try them. I refused. I thought I couldn't manage them. So Joy, she came about. I saw a picture in Pinterest, and I thought it was so beautiful. So I wanted to see if I could accomplish her. So it's nothing that came out of my imagination, or that it took me some time to come about. But I saw the picture and I said, I need to try this. It has a different shape in the head, the eyes, even the hair. So this specific girl, it was the push of, let's come out of the backdrop of the magazine and the gesso, let's take out the watercolors and see what happens. I had been practicing a little bit on different other things, but never on a girl. So it was a scary moment, but I think it worked out somehow, although as I said, this is, I painted her, I drew her, but this is the girl itself. I saw it in a Pinterest picture. So she was painted fully with watercolors, and her hair was done with the Elegant Writer, and the stickers are decals from the dollar store from last year Christmas. So yeah, she's the beginning of the new era where I started using more watercolors in my journaling. So the following one, let me drink some tea, please, is Mercy in Love. And this is where I tried a new headpiece. Again, it turned out a little bit more difficult than what I had expected. I went back to the backdrop of a magazine. I almost always, I write their names with my stamps. And in here I used chalk pastels, watercolors for the shadows, and her hat was created with acrylics. And the flowers, they were given to me by my supervisor. So different because it took me some time to come out with her. She was one of the characters of a book that I was reading at that time. So I had her in my imagination. It's kind of a Victorian lady. So I knew what I wanted, but I had to look for I wanted a long face. So this worked really good. Because it made her face kind of long but pretty, and her eyes are like looking at someone, and that's what the story is about. This one is another one of my favorites. I shared her yesterday in my YouTube channel and her story, and this is Nicolette in Paris. So with her huge stretch in here all over the place. First of all, she has almost a half profile there, and that had it was unbelievable to come out with that hat because it had to have that flow in there, and it was difficult. So the hat itself has all these shadows in there. They were created with watercolors, and she's all watercolors, her whole face. What I did in here, which is different from the others, is I prepared the page with gesso. I decoupaged a napkin in different places, and it's a beautiful one. It has like postal stamps. And then I created her on watercolor paper. I cut it out and placed it on top of the prep page. So this was a revolution in that sense because I had never tried that before. Half profile, the headpiece, difficult, and decoupage. I hadn't decoupaged for any of my girls there. So this girl had a lot of new stuff. So that was another moment in the journaling. So the following lady is Lady from the Andes. And what happened with her was that I had a conversation with my daughter. She draws too, really well, better than me. And she suggested that I should start drawing different ethnicities. So I thought about it for some time. I knew it would imply a lot of learning and observing and looking at different pictures. So it took some time before I went out of whatever I was doing, and I decided to paint her. I was asked today what inspires me, and as my work made a progress in the journal, I realized that I paint better when whatever I'm creating is related to me. So if I don't have that deep feeling of connection right now, I don't create anything. It's not like I sit here and say, well, I have to create something to show in the channel or in any group. If I don't feel it, if I don't have that connection, I honestly don't do it. Where at the very beginning it was more like a challenge to me to create something in order to learn more. So by now in the journal, it's like if I don't have that feeling, that connection, and usually it takes me at least maybe a month to pull out a lady, not in the painting but in the feeling. And I don't know if I explain myself well, but it has to come from the inside. So for her, when I painted her, I went back in my memory to a trip that I took to the Andes with my parents, and that's how she came out. And I looked to a lot of pictures of people from the Andes, and from my memory and from my heart. So with her, I didn't prep the page with gesso. I wanted to have like a red sky in there. So I used a magazine in the back, and I painted her outside the journal on a watercolor paper, and then I cut her through and I added some embellishments there from the magazine. So she was fully painted with watercolors. And I know people ask me why she had her cheeks so red, and I explained to them that in the Andes, it's so cold that your cheeks get burned and cracked. So I wanted that to be portrayed in the picture. So that's how Lady from Los Andes came about. And then this is Zest, and she doesn't have a story yet, but she came about of me thinking of my grandparents and the lemon tree that they had in their house. So she was like, I went back in the art to the page prepped with gesso, and she was painted with the chalk pastels and the crayons, the smooth crayons, and she has a little bit of acrylics in the tree and the lemons and the leaves. And she has a bow too, and different eyes. These are eyes that I had not painted before, and her mouth is completely different from the mouth that I had painted in my other girls. Then another one of my super favorite. This is Ruth, and this is when Ruth met Boaz. Super difficult to achieve the veil, at least to me. And she was inspired by Ruth from the Bible, and that's her journaling is related to that. This was challenging in the sense that, again, I used a whole page of watercolor. I didn't prep the page with anything, and half profile, very concentrated on her eyes, because her eyes needed to portray who Ruth is in the Bible, and then her veil. And the veil, the tricky part is to create those different tones in there so that it creates some kind of movement. So she's fully painted with watercolors. The following girl, another one of my favorites, super difficult to paint, at least to me, because I didn't know, or it was hard to me to work with the headpiece, the colors, and how to show that movement that it has to have, and then creating the color of her face. It took me a long time. I had to use tone over tone and work with dark colors and white, and also create that sweet look in her eyes and her gorgeous lips. So she was, I'm not sure yet what I'm gonna journal on her, but she was created thinking on a character of a TV show that I was watching. So she didn't turn out similar to the character, but this was a huge push. So yes, and then like rain dropping in here with the watercolor. Yes, I was so happy when I came out with Trinidad. So then going or pushing myself to different ethnicities, I came out with Juanita. So Juanita has a backdrop from a magazine and different magazines that I put together. And then I painted her out of the page and I cut her through. So Juanita was featured in a magazine in my county where I live. She was featured to celebrate the Hispanic heritage. So I'm very proud of her. I really love Juanita. I love how her hair looks, the different tones that she has in there, and I created her little earrings and her mouth and the little flower and butterfly there, and she was created all with watercolors. Her hair was created with acrylics. This one, again, I tried another hair piece. Difficult again. They look simple, but they are not. And I wanted to portray like a handkerchief, and I imagined her as an Italian girl, and this was to celebrate this fall. So this is a different style in the sense that I used fabric for the backdrop, and she was created on watercolor paper, and she was cut and then added into the page. So she had this little backdrop of fabric there from the dollar stores with bees and kind of orange flowers. And then these are sunflowers from the dollar store collection. And the handkerchief that she's wearing in her head or on her head has flowers with some golden glitter there. So yeah, and then this was the push of the year. I had been wanting to draw a man for a long time, and I thought like, oh, that's gonna be difficult. I'm gonna have to really check the different bone structures because it's completely different from a woman, and I don't want to draw something that looks like a woman. So it took him quite a lot. I drew him in an hour, but then I had to, before drawing him, I had to look at pictures for many days to see, you know, how different were the bones in the face for a man. And although there's a lot to improve here, believe me, but for the first time, you know, I think, you know, it's fine. But I'm not going to be the judge of that. So for him, I wanted to do like a picture. When I painted him or draw him, I don't even remember what name I put on him, but I think when I journal, I'm gonna journal as Darcy from I forgot the name, Pride and Prejudice. I think that's the name, from Jane Austen. So I'm reading a whole collection of Darcy and at Pemberley, and I want to just journal about him. So I think he's gonna be Darcy. So I painted him with watercolors. This is a portrait. I imagine this one of those portraits that you see in those manors when you visit them in England. And yes, so I created the frame. The frame was created with molding paste, my first time using molding paste. And it was painted with acrylic paints, the frame. Him is all watercolors. I used a little sticker from the dollar store, and behind here it's crafting paper. Then this is my first time using crafting papers as a backdrop. So this is Darcy, my first man. And then my last drawing, but not my last, the last up to now. Instead of a face of a human, I drew Mr. Bruno, my cat. So another push in there, huge, completely different from all that I had been drawing. So I saw a picture in Pinterest of a lady drawing a cat, and I tried to follow the instructions. Just, she was not talking, but she was drawing. So I was watching the video and trying to accomplish, you know, because a cat is a cat. There's not much difference. Yes, in some shapes here and there, but the general idea. So I kind of taught myself on drawing the cat by watching that video. So he is painted in watercolors, and it's a whole page of watercolor paper. And then I added this ribbon from the dollar store, and this was done with my little sisig die cut machine, and then the backdrop is also done with wet on wet watercolors. So this is up to where my journal has gone so far. There's still place for more faces. I don't have anything in mind right now. Eventually something is gonna pop up, and I will be showing it in this channel and share it with all my friends in Facebook. So I hope you enjoyed this journal. My main reason to share it is to encourage you, because you can see how it went from this to this in 2 years. Some people may believe that they don't know how to draw, because that's what I thought. But my advice is a lot of observation and practice. I know that it's frustrating when you have to draw something and then it doesn't work out, and you have to do it again, or you have to modify it. But that's the way to learn. You have to enjoy it first. You have to enjoy looking for what you're gonna draw, and as I said, that takes a lot of observation. Drawing all these girls and a man and the cat, it taught me to observe more the people that I'm talking to, and sometimes look at their eyes and their shapes and the tones of skins, or their wrinkles, or their hairdo. So it made me more conscious of who I have in front of me, to then maybe use it as a little touch in one of my paintings, and to learn different things. So I hope you enjoyed the journal. If you did, subscribe to the channel, like it, and we will see each other with the next spread, or the next whimsical girl or cat. And hopefully you can leave a comment and let me know which one was your favorite one. Bye.